is cinema, created by she, her, continued by he, him. Back, another dish. How we doing out there? Good, great, wonderful. As you see on your screen, your dial. However, you are joining me today, which I thank you. Blind Beast. So, I'm trying to laugh less on the podcast because, I don't know, I heard somebody somewhere say that if you're laughing, and it's only you, if you're laughing at your own jokes and you're laughing at blah, 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 you're a piece of shit. I think I happen to agree with that, even though my laugh is kind of infectious, as I've been told. I don't know. It's a laugh. I haven't stopped to examine my laugh, have I? But I'm laughing already because so if you're a regular on the show, if you're a regular and listening to the show, you know that I don't watch trailers and stuff, right? I don't read any articles. I try to avoid all screen caps or whatever the fuck, all the headlines for stuff that I know I'm going to see. So when I unboxed this from the shipment that Arrow Video sent over, I didn't know anything about it. And in fact, when I looked at the cover, I was like, oh, a modern film called Blind Beast, a Japanese film. If it's from Arrow, probably in store for a weird one. That, my friends, is an understatement. So I guess it's like one of the only time, and so you know how I always harp on you, the audience, for being terrible and only watching stuff that you're comfortable watching. You never go outside of your comfort zone or the like. I would say if there was stuff that I tend to avoid, it would be erotic horror, sexual horror, sexual chocolate. No, just sexual horror. Erotic horror. I didn't even know erotic horror. Yes, I did. What am I even saying? I guess I stay away from it. In fact, like when I'm talking to people, and when the subject of horror films come up, and I've been saying this for years, like you can be so gross, like you can be so bloody, gory, whatever. You can be so gross. The only time I start to tune out, not tap out, because like I said, I stick through. I don't care if it makes me uncomfortable. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. But if there's films that I avoid, I guess it would be something along the lines of erotic, the genre of erotic horror, because it's not my bag, babe. I don't get it. Like the new culture makes me feel kind of vanilla anyway. Like it just seems like I'm not very I'm not the pervert that I thought I was. I don't know. I thought being a pervert, like I think anal's cool. I guess we're talking about this on the show. I guess anal twice a year is cool with me. Twice a year though. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not. And it's not just with a rando, like it's got to be someone I've been with for a long time, but anal twice a year is about as how perverted I'll go, to kind of put things into context for you. Very vanilla, I guess, because now anal ain't nothing. Sometimes women do anal before they do traditional intercourse. It is so weird to me to think that this movie was done in 69, may have been released in 70, 69, I think. Yasuzo Masumura's Blind Beast, 1969. And I know that this shit has been around for a long time. I know, okay? It's one of those things where there's just certain things that don't comprehend to me, you know? Like, my ex leaving me. Should she have probably left me? Yeah, well, I turned it around, so I guess, maybe you should have waited a little bit longer, because I did end up turning it around. But let's just say that, you didn't, I, you know what? Let's not go down that road. I'm not. There can't be pain in the bedroom. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how. And it doesn't even make me uncomfortable. Like in that, this is how weird and fucked up I am. So it doesn't make me uncomfortable to know that you may like rough stuff in the bed, you, the audience. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, hey, oh, you like to, be whipped or hot candle wax or whatever the fuck. Whatever the fuck. That doesn't bother me. Like, even if I know you're a good friend of mine, it doesn't bother me. Whatever you do in the bedroom, I could give a fuck. Seeing it cinematically, it does bother me. It does bother me a great deal. Like, and here's the thing, just so we're clear, I didn't mind this movie. In fact, in terms of art, I thought it wasn't that bad. In fact, if you listen to the last show, Dune, I told you that I was going to do. I was getting very upset, as I tend to do sometimes, just because everything is super awesome or it's fucking dumb as fuck. There's no in between. And I had mentioned on Dune that I watched a movie that was just okay. It was good. It wasn't good. It was good. Yeah, Blind Beast was good. So take all of my shenanigans out about, not particularly caring for erotic horror. In terms of impressionism, in terms of filmmaking, the art, I think it stands just fine. And in fact, I think the story is really good. It's one of those things where it's like, circling back to what I was getting at in the beginning, it's not something that I'm going to seek out. I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad I'll watch anything anywhere. And if Arrow's releasing it, I trust those guys at Arrow enough to, even if I haven't seen it, take a look-see, bro. Take a little look-see. But, yeah, I don't know when I'll break this out and watch it again. I don't know. Especially, I had to get rid of all my friends because they're all late 30s, early 40s, and most of them, I didn't know this at the time, but most of them were Trump supporters and anti-vaxxers, and I don't mind if you are either of those two things, but if you're very vocal about it and you're using untruths, I gotta let you go, babe. I gotta let you go. You can vote for Trump. That's fine. I'm not gonna not be your friend because you voted for Trump. You can be an anti-vaxxer. That's fine. It's kind of a goose of a silly variety to me. That's what it makes you, but that's your choice. If you don't say anything about it, I'm fine with it. But if you're on the internet, fucking, this, that, or the other thing, I can't do it. So, point of me saying that is I shouldn't say got rid of. I just stopped talking to a lot of people over the past couple years. A lot of people. Some of them for like the Trump reasons, and then other reasons you just can't keep taking advantage of someone and thinking that, I think what had happened was I stopped getting so fucking blazed that I started seeing how people, you know what? Let's not. What I was getting at with this is that maybe I could show this to a couple of those late 30s, early 40s Trumpers, and not very few of them, and they'll be like, oh, whatever, that movie was whatever, fine. I don't know that I could show this to the group of friends that I am developing now, which are a little bit younger in the tooth, and I don't know who I would show this to. I don't know if there has ever be like a time or a mood where I'd be like, hey, babe, or hey, my friend, you want to sit down and watch Blind Beast? Well, what is it? Well, what is Blind Beast, my new friend? An artist's mother, Aki, played by Mako Midori, is abducted. An artist's model is abducted. and awakens. Listen to this shit, man. An artist model is abducted and awakens in a dark warehouse studio whose walls are, now bear with me, decorated with outsized, let's say oversized instead, with oversized woman's body parts. Eyes, lips, legs, and breasts. And dominated by two recumbent giant statues of a male and female in the nude. You imagine walking into that motherfucker blind? No pun intended. Blind beast. Well, I guess fine. Pun intended. I walked into it blind, and I am a beast. And there's only 3 sets, and we are in the warehouse very quickly. Very quickly. Like, I think we start at an art studio, the photography studio, where pictures of our main character, Aki, are all over. She is the exhibit, the exhibit topic. And she walks in, and it's early in the morning, so patrons have yet to be begun to get there. And she sees this blind guy groping a statue, a sculpture of Aki. Okay? And I knew that this was going to be weird. So I was just like, whatever at this point. Like, we're not to the warehouse yet where my jaw just dropped and I went, what the fuck is happening? This blind man, is groping her naked sculpture. And at some point, she feels the groping. So she's just kind of watching this dude from afar. She's watching who we will meet, Michio, from afar. And at one point, she actually feels the touch of him. Even though he's touching the sculpture, she feels it on her body. It's a very weird out-of-body type thing that we never really... We don't really touch on later in the film, like if it's, some sort of demonic entity or some sort. It's just a thing that happened. And when she feels his hand on her body, even though he is, 20, 30 feet away, she runs out of the studio. And I was just like, oh, that's peculiar. And now she is back in her apartment and she awaits a massage. And wouldn't you know it, the masseur that comes in, well, it's the blind guy. And the blind guy chloroforms her, and she wakes up and there's a lot of groping here, too, which is, I fucking, like, once we were in the apartment, we haven't even made it to the warehouse yet, the way that Michio, who's played by Eiji Funakoshi, plays Michio, the way that he's touching her, it's kind of humorous, but it does drift into uncomfortable. And I'm glad that I watched the bonus features, because you find out that the reason why this, not only was this film made, which was to save the production company of Deo, they really tried to pull out all the stops and get as rebellious and counterculture as they possibly could. So a movie in the 60s, you see this woman getting groped up like that, and, audience members are like, oh, gasping, right? And I didn't gasp, but, like, it started out with me just kind of, like, giggling, like, ugh, like, look at these actors pretending. Because that's what it looked like the way that he was touching her is just, it looked a little pretend, and then it got a little deeper, and we're grabbing boobs at this point, and I'm just like, okay, now we're teetering on creepy, and then bang, chloroform to the lady, chloroform to Aki, and she wakes up in the goddamn warehouse, surrounded by, did you hear me? Surrounded by sculpted women's body parts, eyes, lips, legs, and breasts. Now, the cinephile in me knows that we are showing symbolism. We are thickening the plot, as it were. And it doesn't make it any easier to watch this woman in a pitch black room surrounded by all these eyes and ears, and it was just, I wasn't prepared, ladies and gentlemen. I was not prepared. Where did I leave off on the synopsis? By two recumbent giant statues of male and female nudes. Okay, here we go. Her kidnapper introduces himself as Michio, again played by Eiji Funakoshi. Why did I say it Italian? Funakoshi. Why did I say it? He's definitely Japanese. This movie is a Japanese movie, by the way. Michio, a blind sculptor whom she had witnessed intently caressing a statue of her naked torso previously at the exhibition, which I had talked about, in which she is featured. So he's just caressing. And it is, and because, like, I don't know how many movies you've seen where people who have sight and portray people that are blind, if they're not wearing glasses of some sort, they do this thing where they look up all the time. And so it was just very weird and somewhat funny as he's caressing this naked body as she watches. Like, it was, I didn't know what I was in store for, so I was still like, I said this to somebody else, this girl that I went out on a date with. It ended poorly, by the way. But I had nicely asked her, I was like, hey, can I process things in my time and not, your self-perceived time of what a phone should do it in? So same thing with Blind Beast, as it was the wheels were turning, they were just turning slow. Like I'm going to say it 15 more times. I wasn't prepared for everything that followed, because like that, you think that's weird. It gets, we go deep. In fact, the ending is so fucking dark, and I won't ruin it for you, but the ending is so, I kept on waiting for, hold on, let me finish the fucking synopsis here. Intently caressing her naked torso, Michio announces his intention of using her to sculpt, that's another thing too. Like, I talk about the processing. So he chloroforms her, right? The model chloroforms her, takes her back to the warehouse with, hold on, there's two things here, with the help of his mother. His mother helps keep this woman in captivity. His mother helps keep this woman in captivity. Anyway, so once she's captive, she wakes up, right, on a... I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. Well, no, I don't wish I was, because it provided for a very eerie conversation between the two leads. But at one point, they're having a conversation amongst two giant sculpted breasts. And at first, like, I was giggling. And, because I'm a child, a boob. It's just until they put me in the ground. I can only untangle so much toxic white male shit. I can only, but I like boobs, so we were having a conversation amongst boobs, not about boobs, amongst boobs. So it's just, I'm a boob. It's just a very, very weird, I don't even know where I was heading. I had two things, but yeah, the mother. Oh, okay. Now I remember. So when she wakes up, right, she's on the chest of this mammoth sculpted thing, right? This sculpted naked body, right? And she's horrified, but she's not leaving. She's not trying to leave either. Now, what I'm about to say kind of takes away from what happens later in the film, where she tries to leave multiple times. But during this, like, she's not evading the way that I kind of would have thought, like, just would not stop screaming or whatever. She's like listening to Michio on why he wants her to model, and you come to find out that he's been blind his whole life, and the experience of the act of touching, he just finds euphoric. He's touched just about everything that there can touch. Animals are his favorite because they're the most kind. But his favorite thing to feel is a luscious woman's skin. Yep. But anyway, as he's telling her this, she's actually coming around to it. Like, she's like, again, like, I guess I just kind of would have thought, like, she just doesn't stop saying you have to let me go. And that's not the case. She's like, more like, tell me more. And I'm just like, hey, you were just chloroformed and brought you here. And he, like, that's why I just thought the story was really good and bizarre and definitely pushed me well outside of my comfort zone. And there's something to be... Now, I know that most people, or a lot of people that are in the film game that can be like, that was a beautiful ending. He had never had anyone before. Stop it. If you're being honest with yourself, stop it. What happens to those two is nothing short of terrible. So you stop that right now. Intention of using her to sculpt the perfect female form, and she is very attractive too. What's her name? Mako Midori. She's very attractive, and not in a stupid 1960s way. Like she would be attractive now. Stop that. We get it. You think she's hot, Sean? Move on. Look, there's dust on it. It's been a long time. Can't help myself. At first defiant, Aki eventually succumbs to the intense fixation on her body and finds herself drawn into into Michio's sightless world in which touch is everything. Blind Beast is a masterpiece of erotic horror that explores the all-encompassing and overwhelming relationship between the artist and his art and the obsessive closed world that the artist inhabits. With maestro director Yasuzo Masumura, who did Giants and Toys, Irizumi, he conjures up a hallucinogenic dream. It is. I'm glad that I don't do the hallucinogens anymore, because if there was still some lingering left, if there was a lingering, and I watched that, I think it would have fucked with me even more. And it did fuck with me, because I was not prepared for the ending. Like, I kind of thought, like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I thought it was going to go the other way, especially for a movie that was made in the late 60s. And then I remembered, oh, yeah, it's the Asians. It's Japan. They don't give a fuck if a movie ends. Oh, the guy didn't get the girl. They don't give a fuck about your feelings, bro. And they certainly, Masumura definitely doesn't in this film. I left going, fuck, man. that's good, like visually super good, super well told, and excuse me, executed. Like, it's meant to be a horror film. It feels like a horror film. I just prefer somebody's head getting chopped off with an axe. I'm not down with the RAPE. That's not you can allude to it, but I don't want to see it. And we did it in this. Like, I suppose I'm giving away. Now nobody's going to watch this movie because I mentioned there's a rape in it, but this it becomes worse than a rape. In terms of, like I said, how they end up, I'd say the rape is the least of their worries. Which feels so weird to say out loud. Anyway, Masumura conjures up a hallucinogenic dream world in which sensual and creative urges combine with a feverish intensity. And boy, they ain't kidding. Some of the bonus features on here, you have a really strong commentary by Asian cinema scholar Earl Jackson. You have an intro by Tony Raines. I've seen him on a couple Arrow discs before. Man knows his shit. And he did, Tony Raines on Yasuzo, Mesumura, and Blind Beast. And he just talks about basically what I had mentioned earlier. You know, this film was an attempt to save Daio, the film production company, because TV had just taken off really big, and they tried to pull out all the stops for this. He talks about some of the films that Mesumura worked on prior to this and what ultimately led to him getting this gig. And then the other bonus feature on here, which was really good. In fact, I had to watch it a couple times. Thankfully, it's only 10 minutes because big word. I'm not a smart person. And big words and eloquently talking men who know their shit far more than I do. It was easily my favorite bonus feature on the disc, even though there's only 3, but it's called Blind Beast, Mesumura, the Super Sensualist. Mesumura, the Super Sensualist. And it's an essay on Edogawa Rampo, who wrote the novel or book or pulp. Edogawa Rampo wrote the initial story for Blind Beast, not the screenplay. The story came many, many years before the film. But this is a scholar featuring Seth Jacobowitz. Take some shots. Couldn't do it. It was fantastic. I learned all the questions that I had as the credits rolled on Blind Beast. Seth answered, and not only did he answer, but he did it so well that I went back and rewatched it again just to make sure. Because sometimes, like, let's say that there are 3 meanings to the movie, and 2 are deep. I need help on the third. Whatever, symbolism, whatever. I need help sometimes because I don't process things as fast as a phone. And if you, the person that I went on the date with, is listening to this right now, I don't think that's unreasonable to ask. Is that you just, my mind doesn't, I wish it was as fast as my tone and my voice may indicate. It is not. And it's starting to happen so often now that I think that I'm just gonna start talking slow, and then people will forgive me. Will forgive me if I don't fucking understand something right out of the gate. I tell you what, trying to date in fucking 2021 after an election and a pandemic is hilarious. Of course, I'm starting to find out that the whole, like, I'm just looking for someone to spend time with, not the rest of my life with, that's not playing so well. When you tell people, yeah, no, I don't mind hanging out with you, and we can go on walks and stuff, but being intimate and loving, I just can't give that to you. And I think my reason is fair and valid. Probably isn't. Oof. Ellis Cinema. Blind Beast Arrow video release. If you're into the erotic horror, I urge you to check this one out because, boy, is it erotic and horrific. Erotic. It is, though. It's erotic and horrific. So I do think it fits the bill of erotic horror. Ellis Cinema, Blind Beast, Arrow video release, and we go.